Nick, Nack, Patty, Wax, Tech Talk. Tech Talk, Tech Talk, Tech Talk. Welcome to my TikTok. Oh, I mean Tech Talk. Hey there, hi there, hello there, Nick here. And today, I'm going to be building a computer. In front of you, you can see the parts that I will be using. From Gigabyte motherboard, X670 Aurora Elite AX. For CPU cooler, Ice Giant Pro Siphon Elite, powered by a 750 GQ EVGA. For a chassis, we got a 011 Air Mini from Lee & Lee. The brains of this machine is going to be a Ryzen 9 7950X from AMD. From G-Skill, we have 128 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, a 500 gigabyte Rocket 4 Plus from Sabrent for the main boot drive. Not pictured here is a 1 terabyte drive from Western Digital Black, the SN850X, which is used as the drive for this Minecraft save file. So when you first start getting everything together, you get all of your parts out and then you take a look at all of the manuals. I like to take a look at the diagram of the motherboard as well. This kind of gives me an idea of where things are going to go, as well as where headers are on the motherboard that need to be connected up. When I first started building computers, it would be a sin to start putting all the parts together before you put the motherboard into the case. It was considered dangerous. However, these days it actually is the primary way to start. You build the computer mostly outside of the case, and then after you have it all together, made sure all your parts work, you then do the work to put it in the case. The new school method is okay in my book. It doesn't seem to leave you any more vulnerable, and seems to save some time in comparison to building a computer and then having to rip out all the parts when the motherboard won't power up. I go ahead and snap in the final remaining RAM sticks. I've noticed with the RAM slots, one side seems to be fixated in place, and the other side is the one that can lock the RAM in place. I'm not sure if this makes it cheaper to manufacture or why this change, but I do find it more annoying to insert RAM than before. I know that this motherboard's RAM slots don't work that way, but I've noticed that a lot of the motherboards I've gotten recently, while rebuilding other computers, do. I'm just, pointing out an annoyance. Now that the RAM is in place, I get ready to install the CPU. Unbeknownst to me, I actually don't install this very well. I mean, it is installed, it does work. However, you're supposed to put the CPU in, and then you close the metal bracket on top of it, and that will cause the plastic part to pop out. I didn't know this, and so I did risk actually breaking this motherboard by trying to get the plastic part out without doing it that way. However, no harm, no foul. When you install the CPU, there will be a little triangle on the corner that'll let you know, for orientation, how you're supposed to insert it into its socket. There is another triangle on the motherboard that you match it up with. As long as you're paying attention to the details when it comes to this, it's fairly easy to get the CPU to be seated into its socket. Push down the tensioning rod and bingo, the CPU is now in its socket. Next, I'm going to work on installing the cooler, but in order to do that, I have to remove the brackets that are already in place that were here for a stock cooler. This CPU did not come with a stock cooler. I believe this to be a cost-cutting measure on AMD's part, as the cooler that would be needed for this particular CPU would be fairly expensive and drive the cost of the overall part up. As it is, the Pro Siphon Elite was $160. Add that on to the cost of the CPU, which is near $800, and you quickly see that it would drive it almost to $1,000. The CPU cooler seemed to come with a whole bunch of parts. It took me a while and I had to read through the manual a couple of times. First, you had to get this plate attached to the motherboard. This is what would then hold on to the ProSiphon Elite and attach it to the CPU, holding it firm. It just was a little bit finicky at first. I had to kind of figure out which parts were for mine and what parts would be for an Intel. The CPU cooler could be used on more than just a Ryzen. I think it was intended originally for a Threadripper, which is why it has such a huge cold plate. Last item you needed in order to test if I had built this thing correctly was to hook up some wires from the power supply. After getting those connected, I'll use a screwdriver to short out the power switch jumper on the motherboard, which will allow me to turn the computer on. Now that the computer is booted up, I go ahead and I install the BIOS update before I do anything else. The BIOS update takes a really long time to get done, but once it's done, you're ready to move on to installing your operating system. Okay, so the aftermath. We got the computer all built, and then I always like to, whenever I build a computer, I package all of its stuff up together. That way I know that anything that came from this computer, I can find it in this pack. So there's all the screws that came with it, there's the wires for the power supply, all of it. This is the hard drive cage, which since we're using M.2 we don't need. I'm pretty happy with everything. Let's get you guys an inside look. I know there's no RGBs, and clearly that fan in the back isn't working. That fan is a 3-pin headed fan, and when I plug it in, it goes like the dickens. Yeah, so I don't know that it's even needed. We got 2 fans there, which you can totally see me in the reflection. Sorry about that. Can I fix that at all? Oh, I see what's causing it. There we go. Alright. So we have 2 fans there, 2 fans there, and then 2 more fans here. There's a 120 millimeter and then a 140 here. Due to the cooler, this big monster here, which is about the only thing you actually can see in the case. You can't even really see it because it's, let's see, can we turn on light? Okay, so I added some light so you guys could see. So we got the ice giant, which is going to do a good job of keeping it cool. We've got the intake fans on the bottom that blow air right into this. And then we have 2 fans up there, 1 and 2, that suck right out and blow out the case. So air in up to here and then straight out the case. We also have some intake coming in from there, and that back there will also be an intake. I pretty much wanted to make an extremely positive pressure case. Well, yeah, mostly positive. Since I'm doing the air cooling, it really is important. Yeah, and as you can see that one in the back, when I plugged that in, it spun up so fast. It was so loud. Pretty sure that used to be a fan for a CPU, because oh my god, it spins. But yeah, outside of that, I got it all built. Server 2.0 is together. I gotta get the rest of the drivers and stuff done. You can kind of see that it still looks like it's ugly Windows. And it is, but we'll get that fixed. It's not a big deal. Oh my god, you guys, look at how dirty this keyboard is. I don't know where I pulled this from. Well, I do, but like I don't know where it's been sitting, because it definitely needs to go through a dishwasher or something. So we got it all built. I know I should have taken more footage, but it got really frustrating. The cooler and a lot of the parts have very tight tolerances, so I ended up taking the cooler off, then putting it back on in order to get everything plugged in, because the cooler blocks pretty much most of the power supply cables and stuff. Alright, so we've gotten the computer built, and now we're going to go through and get the drivers. It looks like this comes with a gigabit center, so we're going to go ahead and try that out. Man, is it fast. Also, I've noticed that when the computer starts doing stuff, it definitely speeds up. So plugging them into the motherboard's interesting. I've never really done that before for the fans.